The problem with being a people pleaser is a personality type that was developed in an environment of entire negation, meaning that the experience of the child was never valid. That when you live in an environment with narcissistic parents, they project onto you, they imbue you with thoughts, ideas, traits that are not accurate to who you are. And so existing this way forces the child to experience themselves through external validation. And so their own experience of self is always negated. Why do you think rumination has so much confusion associated with it? Because rumination is dissociating from reality to enable the interpretation of other people to be considered and potentially assimilated into the experience of the child. That is why they're imbued with such profound guilt. That's why they presume everything is their fault. That is why they live lives trying to appease everybody around them and make them happy. Because this is how they experienced having control as well as their own emotional regulation. Is that in order to avoid continuation of abuse and devaluation, they had to be agreeable. They had to be nice. They had to not say no. They had to work to make other people happy. And that was the only way in which they experienced emotional stability. It was the only way they experienced any form of freedom. And it became the primary means through which the people pleaser would experience their own value, their own validity. Being loved was transformed from being loved as a person to being loved for what you do as a person. And the way that the people pleaser operates is nearly like a chameleon, forming their behaviors, the way they act, the things they do, to cater to the experience of other people. And it's through the experience of other people that that individual will then experience themselves. And because they were negated so profoundly, chronically, is they always have confusion when dealing with reality. And they think that thinking is the rumination, when the rumination itself is the negation of reality in order to reform reality, to maintain these relationships. Why do you think they stay in abuse cycles? Is because they don't trust what they're seeing. They have to talk to the other person to understand it. And so they live a life thinking they're understanding when their understanding is just reframing reality to maintain a fantasy. And the fantasy of people pleasing and borderlines is a future in which you're happy. But the future is dependent upon you establishing a life that would suspend you in positive external validation. Your success is likely something where you think you're going to prove everybody wrong, or you're going to prove yourself, or you're going to build a life that would make you immune to devaluation. And so the way that the people pleaser interprets finding freedom, peace of mind, is by changing the way other people talk to them and treat them, because they automatically experience any devaluation as meaningful in terms of their own value. And so people pleasers live lives of extreme emotional fluctuations and experience themselves through the validation of others. And that's why when they get discarded by a narcissist, they feel like they lost themselves, is because they only experience themselves through the love bombing and validation that made them feel complete, made them feel loved, made them feel safe, made them feel like they belonged. And so they live a life trying to continue to fix other people, to address the moods of other people in order to stabilize their environment, to protect themselves. And so it's an entire survival structure. And often it's very difficult for them to see their way out of it, because it's the only lens through which they've experienced their entire life. Because they've been so devalued and they experience themselves as devalued, they feel that they have to compensate by providing extra value to other people. And they live with profound confusion because other people don't do that. So they feel profound lack of reciprocation throughout life. And they never feel acknowledged because they can't feel acknowledged because they're never authentic. They never share how they really feel. In fact, whenever they feel bad and they can't continue to be nice, they want to hide from society. They want to take a break. And they accumulate a lot of ongoing emotional trauma because they never feel like they have the freedom to be themselves and say what they really think. And then when they think that they're going to do that, all that they want to do is trauma dump. And so they'll go through periods where they'll withdraw or they'll become reactive. And then they want to cut everyone off because they always feel like they're being used. But then the only way that they know how to reestablish relationships is resuming people pleasing. And so they end up in relationships with abusive people because they don't interpret abuse as abuse. They validate abuse because it correlates with their own sense of devaluation, of being not good enough. Like, if I was good enough, this person wouldn't be angry at me, so it must be my fault. If someone cheats on me, I want to know, why did they do it? What did I do wrong? And so because they experience themselves merely through external validation, they're always simply thinking that their freedom, their enlightenment, their happiness is going to come through self-improvement, figuring it out. They become self-help junkies. They become self-improvement junkies, living in a world where they need to be perfect, but they can never quite get there. And since they can't quite get there, they're never fully lovable. They negate real, authentic acknowledgement because it doesn't correlate with their devalued self, because they don't understand a world where they didn't earn love. And so they spend their whole life trying to earn love, earn praise, earn respect, because those are things that were never actually available in childhood. And because they live in a dissociated state like this, where they do not have the ability to experience love because they continue to ruminate and devalue themselves, they cannot tell the difference between abusers and normal people. And because normal people do not offer super validation, do not understand your triggers, do not try to, overwhelm you to get the internal devaluation to just stop for a moment, they don't experience love with normal people, because they don't experience love at all, because people pleasers don't even know the person they're in a relationship with, because they're so busy trying to explain that person's behavior to preserve the idealization of that person that they ignore everything else. That when they get confronted by challenges in life, they go and analyze the challenges, and they become numb to the reality of the dangers or the circumstances that they're in. They don't have the ability to actually acknowledge other people either, because they idealize other people. Because idealizing parents is what you did to normalize the environment for yourself emotionally to survive it. And so being a people pleaser is to live a life as a false version of yourself that's merely catered to the needs of other people, so that you can get external validation that always falls short of personal acknowledgement and noticing the true nature of you as an individual. And so how do you end the rumination? How do you end being a people pleaser? You have to really get it in your mind that nothing that has happened in your life is because you're not good enough. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. That those notions of self were required of you because of the devaluation and the projection of parents that had no empathy, that had no ability to acknowledge you, that could only experience you from the form of supply you provided them. And any deviation from you being the perfect son or daughter would be punishable. Where your own feelings were negated, where when you felt sad, that meant there's something wrong with you. And so people pleasers live as perpetual hypochondriacs emotionally and spiritually, thinking that sadness means I'm broken. And so just normal emotions trigger them, and they think happy is healed. And so they live a life just trying to be happy, when happiness is just one of many emotional experiences that would be normal to people. And because they live in this version of darkness, love is a mirage that they keep chasing. And they'll hold on to the superficial validation of a narcissist because that's making them feel complete. That's what they were trying to get from their parents. And it's fleeting. And they'll do anything to preserve it, including completely destroying their entire life while not even being capable of seeing the true nature of the people around them. It's totally a dissociation from reality. and it's totally correctable.